The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Well, good evening, everybody. This is the Town of Hempstead Town Board meeting for November 17, 2020. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Supervisor Clavin. Present. Councilman Blakeman.
Here.
Councilman Carini.
Here.
Councilman Diaz-Bazito.
I'm here.
Councilman Dunn.
Yeah.
Senior Councilwoman Gooseby. Present. Councilman Muscarella.
Yeah. Go ahead, Supervisor. Supervisor Clavin.
I now ask Councilman Dennis Dunn to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
All rise, face the American flag. Place your right hand over your heart and join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States.
United States of America, and to the
for
republic
which it stands, one nation,
nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
Well, good evening, everybody. Because of the governor's executive orders and also because of the COVID-19 pandemic, today's public hearings will allow for both in-person participation and telephonic participation using the GoToWebinar. The instructions for telephonic participation using GoToWebinar, as well as the pertinent documents regarding today's public hearings, are on the town's website. After the clerk calls each public hearing, the public who are at town hall will first make their comments, and then our participants on the GoToWebinar will allow to make comments as well. All participants on the GoToWebinar must pay attention as the case is called by the town clerk. When the public hearing is called to which you speak, you must click on the raise your hand button on the GoToWebinar as explained in the instructions on the town's website. If you do not click on that raise on hand button when the public hearing is which you speak is called, then you will not be called upon. All participants on GoToWebinar will then be muted until the moderator calls your name to speak. You must pay attention for your name and begin speaking when your name is called. By the moderator will go on to the next participant. The moderator will not recall anyone's name, so please do us a favor and pay attention. If you are participating in the GoToWebinar and watching on the live stream, then you must mute the live stream when it is your turn to speak or you'll not be understood. Each participant will be given one chance to speak for up to 3 minutes in accordance with the town board rules. And when you're done speaking or your time is up, the moderator will again mute you on the GoToWebinar. At the end of the public hearings portion of the meeting and the GoToWebinar will be turned off. And I encourage all those who are using the GoToWebinar to continue listening and watching the meeting on the town's live stream webpage. Please also note that anyone using profanity or straying completely off topic will be immediately dropped by the meeting by our moderator. Madam Clerk, would you please call the first public hearing?
The first public hearing is a proposed local law regarding parking or standing prohibitions in Oceanside and Seaford.
Does any member of the board wish to be heard on this matter?
No.
Okay, if any participating on the GoToWebinar, would you please click the raise your hand button as described in the instructions on the website? And now I will ask our moderator if anybody has raised their hand.
Supervisor, no participant has raised their hand on this public hearing.
Outstanding job as always, Mr. Moderator. May I have a motion?
Supervisor, I move that the public hearing be closed and the proposed local law be adopted.
Second.
Supervisor Clavin.
Aye.
Councilman Blakeman.
Aye.
Councilman Carini.
Aye.
Councilman Diaz-Bazito.
Aye.
Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Gooseby.
Aye.
Councilman Muscarella.
Aye.
Madam Clerk, please call the next public hearing.
We have a proposed local law regarding arterial stops in Baldwin.
Pleasure.
Okay, does anybody on the town board wish to be heard on this matter?
No.
If not, those participating on the GoToWebinar, please raise your hand button as described on the website. And Mr. Moderator, in about 10 seconds, 20 seconds, you'll let me know if anybody's responded.
Supervisor, no participant has clicked raise your hand on this public hearing.
Okay, may I have a motion, please?
Chris.
I move to adopt the item.
Second.
Supervisor
Second the motion.
Supervisor Clavin.
Aye.
Councilman Blakeman.
Aye.
Councilman Carini.
Aye.
Councilman Diaz-Padrino.
Aye.
Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Gooseby.
Aye.
Councilman Muscarella.
Aye.
Madam Clerk, please call the next item.
Proposed local law regarding gross weight restrictions in Wantagh and North Belmore.
Does any member of the board wish to be heard on this item?
No.
If not, is there anyone at Town Hall that wishes to be heard on this item?
No.
I'm going to ask Councilman Diaz-Padrino to assist me in the in-person identification.
There's nobody signed in to speak on this hearing.
Okay. If you are participating in the GoToWebinar, please click the raise your hand button as described in the instructions on the website. Mr. Moderator?
Supervisor, no participant clicked raise your hand on this public hearing.
Okay, then may I have a motion?
I move to adopt the item.
I second.
Supervisor Clavin.
Aye.
Councilman Blakeman.
Aye.
Councilman Carini.
Aye.
Councilman Diaz-Padrino.
Aye.
Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Gooseby.
Aye.
Councilman Muscarella.
Aye.
Madam Clerk, will you please call the next item?
We have a proposed handicapped parking on public streets in Elmont, Franklin Square, North Belmore, Oceanside, and Roosevelt.
Does any member of the board wish to be heard on this item?
No.
Is there anyone at Town Hall to wish to be heard on this item?
There's nobody signed in.
Okay, if you're participating on the GoToWebinar, please click raise your hand at this time as described in the instructions on the website. Mr. Moderator.
Supervisor, no participant clicked raise your hand on this public hearing.
Okay, may I have a motion, please?
I move to adopt the item.
Second.
Supervisor Clavin.
Second.
Supervisor Clavin.
Aye.
Councilman Blakeman.
Aye.
Councilman Carini.
Aye.
Councilman Diaz-Padrino.
Aye.
Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Gooseby.
Aye.
Councilman Muscarella.
Aye.
Madam Clerk, will you please call the next item?
Proposed renewal contract for furnishing fire protection services within the South Franklin Square Fire Protection District.
Okay, does any member of the board wish to be heard on this item?
No.
If not, is there anyone in Town Hall who wishes to be heard on this item?
Supervisor, nobody has signed in to speak on this item.
If you are now participating in the GoToWebinar, please click the raise your hand button as described in the instructions on the website.
Supervisor, one participant has clicked raise your hand. Valerie Lamp. Ms. Lamp, you are live now. Please go ahead and make your comment on this public hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Regina. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Good evening. I was actually calling 5 and 6, both fire related. And I just wanted to ask, what exactly is the contract? What are the fire protection services that are offered?
The fire protection services that are offered are the typical fire response by our outstanding Franklin Square and Munson Fire Department, as well as other emergency services, including ambulance.
Okay. Does each district have their own contract?
Depends.
No.
Some districts are
The contracts are required in instances where the town of Hempstead has created a fire protection district. If the town creates a fire protection district, it has to contract out to a fire district or a fire department to provide fire protection under a contract for a given amount of consideration.
Okay, and does each district have their own set of policies and procedures?
When a district is awarded a fire protection contract, they will treat the fire protection area in the same manner than they do the properties within the fire district. They will give no less, no more consideration to the people in the fire protection district than they do to the properties within the fire district.
Oh, of course not, and I would never insinuate that. I'm just curious and concerned because as someone who, first of all, let me just go on the record and say I absolutely love firefighters. I think they're one of the most selfless people on the planet. And as someone who experienced a house fire in 98 and lost everything, you know, all the belongings, whatever, this is, of course, of great concern to me. I do want to point out that I did foil over 4 months ago the fire protection policies and procedures for the animal shelter, and I have not gotten anything back. Are there policies and procedures for fire and in case of emergency at the shelter?
I think right now we're discussing the contract between the South Franklin Square Fire Protection District and the Franklin Square Munson Fire Department.
Right, we are, and I felt like it might fall under the umbrella of fire protection, and especially knowing that there was a gas leak last week.
No, we're discussing the specific contract between the South Franklin Square Fire Protection District and the Franklin Square Munson.
All right, it's just difficult because, you know, they haven't allowed for public comment, so I thought this might be relevant and of great concern to the board, especially since the animal shelter is...
Ms. Lamp, do you have any more comments on the item?
With voiceless animals, but also CSEA staff. So I would really love it if somebody could look into that and at least get back to me, considering my FOIL is months past due.
Okay, thank you. Right now, again, we're talking about the Franklin Square Munson Fire District. Thank you for your comments.
Mr. Moderator, is there anyone else on the GoToWebinar?
Supervisor, no other participant clicked raise your hand on this public hearing.
Okay, may I have a motion, please?
Yes, Supervisor, I move that the public hearing be closed and the contract be renewed.
Second, Councilman Blakeman's motion.
Supervisor Clavin.
Aye.
Councilman Blakeman.
Aye.
Councilman Carini.
Aye.
Councilman D'Esposito.
Aye.
Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Gooseby.
Aye.
Councilman Muscarella.
Aye.
Madam Clerk, will you please call the next item?
Proposed renewal contract for furnishing fire protection services within the East Lawrence Fire Protection District.
Okay, does any member of the board wish to be heard on this item?
No.
Was there anybody who signed in at Town Hall that wished to be heard on this item?
No, Supervisor.
If you're participating in the GoToWebinar, please raise your hand as described in the instructions. Mr. Moderator.
Supervisor, no participant clicked raise your hand on this public hearing.
Okay, may I please have a motion?
Yes, Mr. Supervisor, I move that the public hearing be closed and that the contract be renewed.
Second.
Supervisor Clavin.
Aye.
Councilman Blakeman.
Aye.
Councilman Carini.
Aye.
Councilman D'Esposito.
Aye.
Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Gooseby. Aye. Councilman Muscarella.
Aye.
Shall we call the decision calendar?
We just would like to remind all the participants on GoToWebinar that now the public hearings are complete. The GoToWebinar will be turned off, and we encourage all of the participants who are watching and listening on GoToWebinar to continue doing so on the Town of Hempstead's live stream on the town website.
Where's Don?
There we go. Can you guys hear me okay?
We hear you.
We can hear you, Supervisor.
Great. Madam Clerk, would you please call the first item on the decision calendar?
The first decision is the application of 3249 Larson Boulevard LLC for a permit to include an existing gasoline service station within the GSS district. The petitioner operates the gasoline station and convenience store that they seek to upgrade and improve.
May I have a motion on this item?
Supervisor, I move to adopt the item.
Second.
Supervisor Clavin.
Aye.
Councilman Blakeman.
Aye.
Councilman Carini.
Aye.
Councilman D'Esposito.
Aye.
Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Gooseby.
Aye.
Councilman Muscarella.
Aye.
Madam Clerk, please call the next item on the decision calendar.
We have the application of Sunrise Development, Inc. to rezone from Residence B District to Business X District in order to facilitate development of an assisted living facility designed to meet the needs of the senior population in the existing community in Oceanside.
May I have a motion on this item?
Supervisor, I move to adopt the item.
Second.
Supervisor Clavin.
Aye.
Councilman Blakeman.
Aye.
Councilman Carini.
Aye.
Councilman D'Esposito.
Aye.
Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Gooseby.
Aye.
Councilman Muscarella.
Aye.
Madam Clerk, could you please call the administrative calendar?
On the administrative calendar, we have items number 9 through 140 on the administrative calendar. We also have 12 resolutions that are of an urgent or emergency nature. I will also want to note for the record that with regard to item number 125 on the administrative calendar, I have distributed Supervisor Clavin's certification document and the petition from the Hicksville Water District before this meeting. The first emergency resolution is entitled Resolution Authorizing the Grant of Funds to the Long Island Children's Museum located in the town of Hempstead to be paid from monies received by the town through the CARES Act to assist them in paying for unbudgeted necessary expenses incurred directly related to the COVID-19 pandemic. The second resolution authorizes the transfer of monies received by the town of Hempstead through the CARES Act to fund unbudgeted necessary expenses incurred directly related to the COVID-19 pandemic. The third resolution authorizes amendment to the 2020 adopted budget to increase the general fund estimated revenues, an increase to the general fund appropriations, an increase to the general fund undistributed other expense account, and an increase of the CARES Act assistance revenue account in the general fund undistributed. The fourth resolution authorizes the grant of funds to the United Cerebral Palsy Association of Nassau County, located in the town of Hempstead, to be paid from monies received by the town through the CARES Act to assist them in paying for unbudgeted necessary expenses incurred directly related to the COVID-19 pandemic. The fifth resolution authorizes the transfer of monies received by the town of Hempstead through the CARES Act to fund unbudgeted necessary expenses incurred directly related to the COVID-19 pandemic. The sixth resolution authorizes an amendment to the 2020 adopted budget to increase the general fund estimated revenues, an increase to the general fund appropriations, an increase to the general fund undistributed other expense account, and an increase of the CARES Act assistance revenue account in the general fund undistributed. The seventh resolution authorizes the grant of funds to the Incorporated Village of Garden City, located in the town of Hempstead, to be paid from monies received by the town through the CARES Act to assist them in paying for unbudgeted necessary expenses incurred directly related to the COVID-19 pandemic. The eighth resolution authorizes the transfer of monies received by the town of Hempstead through the CARES Act to fund unbudgeted necessary expenses incurred directly related to the COVID-19 pandemic. The ninth resolution authorizes amendment to the 2020 adopted budget to increase the general fund estimated revenues, an increase to the general fund appropriations, an increase to the general fund undistributed other expense account, and an increase of the CARES Act assistance revenue account in the general fund undistributed. The 10th resolution authorizes the grant of funds to the Incorporated Village of Stewart Manor, located in the town of Hempstead, to be paid from monies received by the town through the CARES Act to assist them in paying for unbudgeted necessary expenses incurred directly related to the COVID-19 pandemic. The 11th resolution authorizes the transfer of monies received by the town of Hempstead through the CARES Act to fund unbudgeted necessary expenses incurred directly related to the COVID-19 pandemic. And the 12th resolution authorizes amendment to the 2020 adopted budget to increase the general fund estimated revenues, an increase to the general fund appropriations, an increase to the general fund undistributed other expense account, and an increase of the CARES Act assistance revenue account in the general fund undistributed. These will be items number 141 through 152 on the administrative calendar.
Thank you, Madam Clerk, for that reading of all those. Does any member of the board wish to be heard on any administrative calendar items?
Yes, Mr. Supervisor, it's Bruce Blakeman. I would just like to ask our controller, Mr. Masmarino, whether he reviewed all of the 12 hand-ups identified as items 141 through 152, and whether he's certified that the funding and actual numbers contained in those hand-ups are true and correct.
Yes, as a matter of fact, we prepared those resolutions in my office, and we did examine the documents, and everything is correct.
Thank you, Mr. Masmarino. I have no further questions.
Thank you. At this time, does any member of the public wish to be heard on the administrative calendar items? And I'll ask Councilman D'Esposito to assist on this.
Supervisor, there is one individual that would like to speak on the administrative calendar, Mr. Felix Procacci, who is at the podium. Mr. Procacci, please state your name and address for the record.
Felix Procacci. Number 12, what type of computer training courses are in the Global Knowledge Network we are going to use?
Supervisor, Commissioner Prim is approaching the dais.
This resolution is for personnel to take classes for a one-year term. This is for two types of bundles, over 350 classes in each bundle. It offers IT employees the opportunity to advance their education in areas of programming, networking, and systems operations.
It doesn't answer the question. Okay.
What's the question?
Item number 15. What is item number 15 for? I didn't understand that.
Didn't you ask about number 12?
Yeah, he didn't answer it, so I'm going on.
So what is your question about number 15?
I have no idea what item 15 is about.
15 is Oracle. That's John Masmarino.
The computer system that was installed had assumed a number of work hours in the year of 2080. Next year's number of hours is 2080. That's going to affect the hourly pay rate of every single employee in the town. That requires reprogramming. And Oracle is a company that has the expertise to reprogram it. The programming will be permanent, and as the years go by, if it's 2080, there's the ability to fix it. If it's 2096, there'll be the ability to fix it. Because believe it or not, there will be 2,096 hours in a year and 2,080 in 2 out of 10 years. So that's what the programming is about.
Okay, thank you. Item number 23 through, I don't know what, all the bond resolutions. How much of these bond resolutions do you plan on actually implementing? how much you plan on borrowing. I got 11.6 million. How much are you going to borrow this year, 2020?
The plan this year is to issue notes and not long-term debt because the analysis of the debt market is chaotic at best. And we're not certain we could get the best interest rate at the present time. So the safest thing to do is to borrow notes to finance various parts of the capital project. These are just authorizations to expend the money and to borrow. And the notes will be short-term borrowings of a year. And at that, after a certain period of time, next year we will be rolling them into long-term debt. So at the present time, we're going to be borrowing enough probably within the next month to finance many of these projects. If the projects can wait until we issue long-term debt, then the projects will wait until next year where we could do long-term debt. We'll prioritize the money.
Yeah, the question was, how much are you going to do this year? How much of the 11.6 million are you going to borrow this year? That was my question.
We will probably borrow the entire amount in notes.
Okay, the full 11.6.
Yeah.
So I have a question, Mr. Masmarino. Based on the CARES Act and the trillions of dollars that the federal government has been borrowing, some analysts on Wall Street are anticipating the possibility that there will be inflation and interest rates will rise. Do you have the ability to change from a note to a bond quickly if, in fact, we detect that there could be a rise in interest rates?
Absolutely. The notes have to stand for a minimum of 3 months. Anytime after that, we can pull the trigger and go out on long-term debt. And we're waiting to see. It's not so much the interest rate is as much as the interest in the municipal debt. That's what the problem is today. The less interest you have in long-term debt, municipal debt, the higher the interest rate's going to be. So our discussions with the professionals, they're saying that this is not a particularly good time with all the uncertainties that are out there. This is not a good time to go out on long-term debt.
You don't want to go out with a bond issue that fails.
Yeah, exactly. You don't want to go out with 1 or 2 bids. You want to go out and get 5 or 6 bids. We have excellent credit. We have very high investment grade credit. And if you're going to get 1 or 2 bids, you're going to take it on the chin. And we're just not ready to take that chance right now.
That makes sense. Thank you.
Right.
Number 90, $3 million in COVID-19 money. The question is, how much of this money has already been spent? And the second part of it is, are there actual receipts for this money that's being spent? Because I did FOIL on another one, and instead of getting actual receipts, I got just very general. I can't identify one item that was purchased. So on this $3.3 million, has any been spent, and can I get actual receipts for the actual products or services that were purchased?
Okay, might as well just stay up here. Felix, there are 2 types of disbursements from the grants funds. If we make a grant to an outside agency, that is a potential expenditure. We do not write a check for $1 million if the town board has authorized a grant. We say to the recipient, you must provide documentation to us that you, A, have spent the money, and B, it is within the requirements of the Treasury, because the town is on the hook, not necessarily the recipient of the grant, although we have in our agreements that we can claw back from them. But those receipts are not in our system. They are provided by the grantee. But we do have copies for you if you want to see them. The second part of drawing down on the money are internal expenses that we have that have gone through our accounting system, and that is in our accounting system we go through, verify that they're COVID-related, and we periodically bundle them together and draw down on the CARES money. So there's two different types of disbursements with the CARES money, both of which are fully documented. One is by paper, and the other one is internally in our accounting system.
I understand, but it says $3.387 million. Part of the question was, how much of that has already been dispersed?
On that particular one?
Yes.
Everything.
All of it, okay.
Yep.
Okay, and then number 92, I think it's a question for you also. I went through the whole thing, and it looks like appropriated from fund balance, I got $11.9 million. Right. Does that mean there was an $11.9 million deficit in the 2019 budget?
No. What you're looking at are items that were on the short side. What's not in the analysis are items that are in the plus side. The latest that I have from our staff, and the auditors are finishing up their audit, is 2019 will end in a surplus. So net, that 11 million that you're adding up, on the other side, there's in excess of 11 million that was underexpended, or the revenues were higher than anticipated.
Okay.
Supervisor, that is the only resident that is signed in under the administrative calendar.
Okay. May I have a motion then on the administrative calendar in its entirety?
Was there any check on the webinar?
I move the administrative calendar.
Second.
Are you ready? I move the administrative calendar entirely, with including the urgent members that was sent, that was added to the calendar, which makes it 152.
Second. Before, I just wanted to clarify for the record, did we go to the webinar to see if anybody wanted to speak on
Nope.
No, okay, very good. Supervisor Clavin.
Aye.
Councilman Blakeman.
Aye.
Councilman Carini.
Aye.
Councilman D'Esposito.
Aye.
Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Gooseby.
Aye.
Councilman Muscarella.
Aye.
I do want to thank all the members of the town board and all elected officials. I think what we've done in particular with a lot of these add-on resolutions, cerebral palsy, the Children's Museum, is just, again, all of us working together to help entities that really need it right now. So I just want to thank each and every one of you because this is always has been, and I'm very fortunate. I wish I could be there with you all right now. And I know you're all sad I'm not. A very, very team-focused orientation program. So thank you to each and every one of you. And with that, now that the formal town board meeting has been adjourned, the town will remain to listen to the comments of residents.
Thank you, Supervisor Clavin. Before we do that, can we have a motion to adjourn?
I love that motion. I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Supervisor Clavin.
Aye.
Councilman Blakeman.
Aye.
Councilman Carini.
Aye.
Councilman D'Esposito.
Aye.
Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Gooseby.
Aye.
Councilman Muscarella.
Aye.
And before we start the public comment, I do want to wish all my colleagues on the town board, all of our coworkers in the town, all of us and our families and anybody else listening, a happy and a safe upcoming Thanksgiving. With that, the formal meeting of the board is done. We'll remain to listen to residents, and I will ask Councilman D'Esposito to assist in any residents that have identified them wanting to speak during the public comment section, please.
Supervisor, the first member of the public that has signed in to speak is Steve Edmondson.
Steve Edmondson, Board Director of Oceanside Civic Association. I have several members for the town board. I don't know what's the matter with the secretary. You don't get the messages. I don't get the phone calls. That's why I'm here. And I know you had a press conference down with Oceanside Sanitation District number 7 with the problem we're having over there. But I'd like to find out from Kate Murray, town clerk, if Ryan ever filed his oath of office to be a sanitation commissioner in Oceanside, and if we can get a copy of that. because, I mean, he has to swear to uphold the rules and regulations of the county and the state and so forth and so on, and I don't think he's doing that.
I will certainly look into that. I don't know that off the top of my head, sir, but we will look into that and get back to you.
And I also called about the bus stops, that the nice bus removed, and they're still up there, and there's no bus stops there.
Well, regarding the bus stop, Supervisor Clavin and I sent a letter to NICE as well as the county regarding bus stops that have been removed in both Island Park and Oceanside.
Thank you. And I also want to thank you guys for the Island Harbors grant for the food that you guys provide for us poor people. But I mean, when you call the town board and you leave messages, and I left messages for Senior Counsel Gootsby, your office, and Dunn's office. I also called another matter for Dunn. I called the office over in Post Avenue, and nobody gives you the messages over there. I mean, you leave messages and they don't get returned. That's not a good thing. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and a happy Thanksgiving, and thanks for the kind words on Long Island Cares. You know, with it, we've saddened to report, but happy we've been able to now feed over 1 million people in the town of Hempstead. So thank you for that.
Supervisor, the next individual that has signed up to speak for public comment is Felix Procacci. Mr. Procacci, please state your name and address for the record.
Felix Procacci. On October 7th, 2020, the governor signed into law Bill number S4495A, which states municipalities should not be able to enact local laws which establish different requirements for tire inflation equipment. The fact of the matter is the town's free air law was never legal from the day it was enacted in 1978. The town put the free air law in its building zone ordinance, citing health and safety as a reason. The fact of the matter is zoning ordinance in New York State can only contain regulations that pertain to the health and safety on the property being zoned. It cannot be used to regulate prices. In addition, the doctrine of preemption prohibits local law from preempting state law. The new state law makes this clear, but it was unnecessary. To argue otherwise would imply that every state law should have such verbiage saying it can't be preempted by local law. The town wasted over $150,000 defending this illegal law and cost small businesses owners over $100,000 in legal fees, all for nothing. It is important that the town research the legality of legislation before proposing it. A resolution was presented by the prior administration that would require this, but this town board chose to table it indefinitely, not even allowing a discussion. It is important to note that questions about this law's legality were asked, but this board put arrogance and ego and ignorance above doing what was right for the residents. It should now be very clear to this board that the town law regulating air compressors at gasoline stations violates state law and is not enforceable, and the town board should take the necessary steps to remove this law. And more importantly, the town should make standard practice to review the legality of resolutions before they are brought before the board.
Thank you, Felix.
I have a question about the budget on 2021. It indicates that we're saving $750,000 by refinancing debt, but when I go to the municipal bond website, there has been no refunding bonds or any bonds issued this year that I could see. So I'm wondering, how is that $750,000 in savings being obtained?
Well, thank you, Mr. Procacci. We'll take it under advisement.
Well, Master Marino was going to answer me.
No, we'll take it under advisement. We'll you know what?
Advisement? What advisement? You wrote it in the budget book. I mean, I can't. You wrote this. You signed your name on the budget book, and you can't answer a question about your budget book?
Mr. Procacci, you've been coming here for 20 years, and you know it's a public.
10 years.
We appreciate it, as always.
and you duck the questions.
Thank you, Mr. Procacci. Happy Thanksgiving. Next is Stuart Kroll.
Stu Kroll, Great Neck. Mr. Clavin, you closed this shelter in March. You never allowed it to reopen, claiming COVID made it unsafe. Why is it safe for Central Vet to reopen? They've had numerous days with no warning. They tell trappers their cats will not be fixed. There's no place to hold these cats, and trapping them again is extremely difficult. They've had numerous cats also get lost out of their parking lot. They are fixing approximately 25% of the number of cats fixed at the town shelter. Everything else, including all vets, have reopened. As far as your commitment to everyone's safety, I simply refer to your picture taken with 10 people with no masks or social distancing. You recently had a fundraiser at Platt Deutsch with 200 people. The legal limit at the time was 50 people. The fire marshal said the law was broken, but no fines were issued. If I had Thanksgiving dinner at my house with 100 people, what do you think would happen? I would be fined immediately, but then again, I'm not the supervisor, and the party boss will not back me. According to files recently reviewed, 89 cats have been euthanized at the shelter between January and the end of September. You're only taking in sick and injured cats. No owner surrenders or kittens, of which there are many out there due to your cruel policies. How many cats are currently at the shelter? It is virtually mathematically impossible that all of these cats were gravely ill. Many other adoptable cats were shipped off to the Good Shepherd Sanctuary in Maryland. It seems pretty clear that you want to privatize the shelter and give it away with as few animals as possible. If it means killing adoptable cats, what do you care? Whoever organized, by the way, Clavin's fundraiser should be fined heavily and probably arrested as well. The town of North Hempstead has signs stating, and I paraphrase, no hate or bigotry will be tolerated in our town. Does Hempstead live up to the same mantra? An Oceanside sanitation commissioner had screenshots, which he admitted were his, from some time back with racist, anti-Semitic, anti-gay, lesbian, and making fun of disabled children. He obviously didn't miss a beat. There were many calls from his resignation from outside the town. The town was silent for weeks until, when there's a face to be put to it, nobody seems to want to speak up. Until 2 hours before a press conference with Kaminsky, Mr. Clavin and Mr. D'Esposito called for his resignation. As far as I know, he is yet to resign. I'm sure the timing of this request was purely coincidental. This board takes photo ops in every district, so that's not the problem. So what I'd simply like to know is, why has no one spoke up? Mr. Blakeman, you're always coming out against bigotry. Have you spoken up on this? I haven't heard anybody speak up, aside from Mr. Clavin and Mr. D'Esposito, and that was weeks after it happened. So where's the outcry? Apparently nobody has any response. I guess there is no outcry. So I guess it doesn't quite, when there's a face to it, nobody wants to speak up. Anyway, have a nice day.
Thank you, Mr. Kroll. Have a happy Thanksgiving. Safe trip home. Next is Maria Amgel.
Good evening, everyone.
Please state your name and address for the record.
Maria Lucia Engel, Oceanside. I'm here to ask Supervisor Clavin, Clerk Murray, and the entire council, all members of the council, to make a decision in this case that has been dragging for almost 11 months. I have some documents with me that I would like to give you, if you accept them. They are identical for each of you, and basically they allow you to follow what I'm going to briefly summarize at this time.
You could leave them on the podium and we'll get them.
Thank you.
We'll have someone deliver them to us.
If they get misplaced, just in case, I will email them.
Oh, we'll make copies too.
As well.
Thanks.
No, but I'll leave them here. So I will begin with Town of Hempstead Animal Shelter's refusal to comply with its obligation under the Freedom of Information Law. Of my 4 requests for FOIL documents, the animal shelter has denied every single one of them 100%. Specifically, it did not produce case view reports for report number, I won't bother you with, they are here listed, my original handwritten lost cat report, the report of the animal control, dated February 3rd, 2020, or a single policy section that I requested regarding the acronyms, abbreviations, and other matter. Although the animal shelter refused to turn over the FOIL documents that I requested, I have obtained documents from the shelter's website which confirms beyond reasonable doubt that my cat was first listed on the adoptable list, and you'll see it in Exhibit 1, and as you'll see in the moment, that she was actually adopted despite all the false denials, relentless denials. The shelter has repeatedly misrepresented that letter A in front of the ID number of the animal stands for animal, which is false because letter A stands for adopted. As you will see in Exhibits 1, 2, 3, 4, every single one of them confirms that prior to my cat's adoption, there was no letter A before her ID numbers. Neither one of her 2 ID numbers, and they are here listed, has letter A before the numbers. And you'll see Exhibits 1, 2, 3, 4. Instead of case view reports requested in point 1 of my FOIL request, the shelter produced animal view reports, so it didn't comply with my request. Why? As it turns out, case view reports have to do with report of animal control.
Thank you, Ms. Amgill. Unfortunately, your 3 minutes is up. If you just leave that on the podium, we'll have someone deliver it to the board so they could read it.
Please allow me just 1 minute. 1 more minute, please. I'll skip. However, these animal view reports confirm that on 2/15/20 at 1:46 p.m., my cat's examination revealed that she appeared normal. Thus, she was adopted behind my back, and that the shelter lied to me and is still lying to me. I appeal to this board to do the right thing and to compel the animal shelter to return.
Ma'am, we really have to stick to the time frame. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilman Diaz-Padrino, anybody else?
Yes, next speaker is Diane Madden. Good evening, Ms. Madden. Name and address for the record.
Diane Madden, Hempstead. I'm like sick to my stomach listening in the other room to what goes on in this room. You have complete power, and yet you obstruct information from the public. You're not offering even miscellaneous. When is there going to come a time where the public can comment virtually for miscellaneous? This government should be operating full transparency. You have full control. This is just an embarrassment. Listening to how Ms. Lamp was treated because she's got to sneak in a question. Is there a policy for fire at the animal shelter? That should be a yes or no answer. I don't know how delusional you people are, but the public is more awake than ever. They're listening. There should be an option for the public to speak at miscellaneous, and I ask you to do that for the next town board meeting. Central Vet, I don't know what's being reported to you about what's going on there, but it's a nightmare. Cats are dying there. They're being let out of the parking lot. There was a news report on Channel 7 tonight. Last year, Hempstead spay-neutered over 2,500 cats. This year, about 600. You have every resource to do contactless TNR. It's cruel to continue this contract and not re-implement that program. There's no excuse. You have every resource. I'd like to know, when the fire marshal was here, was there any mention of inspecting all of these buildings? Because, quite honestly, I'm getting more text messages and information from employees that there are fire extinguishers that are expired throughout the town, that the other day, Greenfield Cemetery, the extinguisher went off and the fire department never came because it's not working. Is anything being done? You have the power. This should be the best run government in Nassau County. And it's the worst. The behaviorist job, that came as a result of settlement talks in 2010. This board has dumbed down the position to enrichment specialist. Why? It was a civil service job for an expert. Terry Cahoka told me, well, we don't want the animal shelter running like a private agency.
Thank you,
Well,
Ms.
that's what
Madden.
it's doing. You're turning away animals in need, and you're charging for programs that you're not providing.
Thank you, Ms. Madden. Have a safe trip home. Next
You know
speaker is Jonathan.
Public is being treated like a nuisance.
Next speaker is Jonathan Gunther.
Councilman D'Esposito, the public is being treated like a nuisance. Yet in a few months, you'll all be out there campaigning.
Ms. Madden, thank you for your comments. Next speaker is Jonathan Gunther.
It's always fresh to hear Diane Madden speak her mind to the council here. My name is Jonathan Gunther. I am the Nassau County Libertarian Party Executive Chairman. I am was a state senate candidate for District 6 that I ran against Dennis Dunn right here.
Can you just state your address for the record, please?
My address is, I wasn't fully prepared because I was busy today, but the unconstitutional enforcement of the 10 people in the home, I'm wondering if the town of Hempstead could be enforcing or what power they have to be able to enforce something like that, because obviously it's unconstitutional, shouldn't have happened. But what can the town of Hempstead do against that if they're willing to, and what power do they have? That is a question.
Go ahead, Charles.
We are, as a matter of law, superseded by all determinations of the governor under 2B of the New York State Executive Law. And once he makes a pronouncement, an edict, we have no authority to countermand it.
There's been sheriffs in other places throughout the state who have said they will not enforce it. Are you aware of any sheriffs or any police captains here that are going to be doing the same thing? If so, they should be congratulated again.
You'd have to ask the county executive on
Yeah.
that. She appoints the police commissioner as well, and correct me if I'm wrong, Councilman D'Esposito, the sheriff. So that's a great question you should pose right at the county executive.
Gotcha. All right, no problem. Then town of Hempstead has no power. Then okay, that's what I want to know.
Any other comments?
That was it.
All right, have a happy Thanksgiving. Safe home. Is that it, Dom? All right. Supervisor, that's the last of the speakers.
Okay, then I want to thank everybody, and again to everybody who worked with. A happy Thanksgiving, and a special shout out to our IT crew tonight for getting it done on the web. So thank you all. Stay safe. A happy Thanksgiving, and we'll see everybody in a couple of weeks.
You too, Supervisor. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Happy Thanksgiving.